From the Blues Hotel Collective, welcome to Blues Moments in Time, where every groove holds a memory and every moment echoes the truth of what came before. Today, we rewind the reel, trace the footsteps, and revisit the chapters that shaped the blues. Here is our host, Kelvin Huggins.
Welcome to Blues Moments in Time, the podcast dedicated to exploring the rich history and cultural significance of blues music. Today's episode is all about January 16, a date that quietly threads together Prohibition, speakeasies, swing, electric blues, and even an intimate acoustic reinvention of the genre on global television. We'll walk through the cultural and political backdrop, key musical milestones, and mark the birthdays and memories of artists who carried the blues forward in their own ways. So let's start in the early 20th century. On January 16 in 1919, the United States ratified the 18th Amendment, launching Prohibition and outlawing the manufacture, sale, and transport of alcohol. What looked like a moral reform project on paper turned into a massive underground nightlife economy. Speakeasies, backroom bars, and after-hours joints where jazz and blues became a soundtrack to defiance. Those hidden rooms gave black musicians new stages and new audiences. The blues, already rooted in the Deep South, found fresh life in northern cities and border towns, amplified by migration and the thrill of doing something technically illegal but spiritually necessary. Prohibition didn't invent the blues, but it absolutely shaped where and how it was heard, especially in urban clubs and cabarets. Now we fast forward to the late 20th century, and January 16 is still echoing in the culture. By the time we reach the 1990s, the blues has become both a roots tradition and a global language. When Eric Clapton sits down with an acoustic guitar in a small studio in England on January 16, he's tapping into that long history of intimate, room-sized blues storytelling, just with cameras rolling and the whole world watching. When we turn to the political landscape, January 16 is anchored by the same Prohibition moment. The 18th Amendment didn't just change drinking habits, it reshaped American nightlife. Policing and race relations, black musicians often worked in spaces that were both criminalised and coveted, raided by authorities, yet frequented by politicians, businessmen and celebrities. The blues lived in that tension, music born from hardship, now fueling an underground economy created by law. Later, as the civil rights era unfolded, artists connected to the blues and R&B like Barbara Lynn, born on January 16, 1942, were coming of age in a South still marked by segregation and discrimination. Her success as a young black woman, writing, singing and playing electric guitar in the early 60s, quietly pushed against gender and racial expectations, even as the broader political struggle for equality raged in the streets and the courts. So when we talk about January 16 in blues history, we're also talking about how laws, movements and social battles shaped the rooms where this music was played and who got to stand on the bandstand. Alright, musically, one of the most important January 16 sessions didn't happen in a juke joint, but in a recording studio. On January 16, 1932, Duke Ellington recorded It Don't Mean a Thing If It Ain't Got That Swing. While it's a swing era jazz classic, its rhythmic feel and phrasing are deeply indebted to blues sensibilities, bent notes, call and response, and that insistence on feel over formality. Now we jump ahead 60 years to January 16, 1992. Eric Clapton walks into Bray Studios in Windsor, England, to record his now legendary MTV Unplugged set. The performance leans heavily on blues standards, and blues-inflected versions of his own songs, including a reimagined Layla and the deeply personal Tears in Heaven. Released later that year, the album becomes the best-selling live album of all time and wins 6 Grammys, bringing acoustic, rootsy blues playing into living rooms worldwide and introducing a new generation to the sound of stripped-back guitar and voice. These 2 January 16 sessions, Ellington in 1932 and Clapton in 1992, bookend a long arc from big band swing shaped by blues to intimate, televised blues that feels almost like a living room confession. Now let's celebrate some January 16 birthdays that matter to the blues. Robert Wilkins, born January 16 in 1896 in Hernando, Mississippi, just south of Memphis. Wilkins was a country blues guitarist and vocalist of African American and Cherokee descent. Known for his versatility, he could move between ragtime, blues, minstrel songs, and gospel with ease. He performed around Memphis in the 1920s and 1930s, sharing the scene with figures like Fury Lewis, Memphis Minnie and Son House, and even claimed to have taught Memphis Minnie some of her guitar style. Wilkins recorded for labels like Victor and Brunswick between 1928 and 1936, leaving behind sides that would later be rediscovered during the folk and blues revival. In the late 1930s, he turned more fully to religious life, eventually becoming an ordained minister and focusing on gospel music. But his early blues recordings, like That's No Way to Get Along, remain touchstones for country blues fans and collectors. Barbara Lynn, born January 16, 1942 in Beaumont, Texas. Lynn is an American rhythm and blues and electric blues guitarist, singer and songwriter, and one of the rare left-handed female electric guitarists to front her own band in the early 1960s. Inspired by blues artists like Guitar Slim and Jimmy Reed, as well as pop icons like Elvis Presley and Brenda Lee, she formed an all-female band called Bobby Lynn and Her Idols and began playing local clubs while still young. Her breakthrough came with the 1962 single You'll Lose a Good Thing, which hit number 1 on the R&B charts and crossed over to the pop charts. Lynn wrote the song herself, sang it and played guitar on it, an unusual level of control for a young woman in that era. Her smooth guitar lines, soulful voice and songwriting helped pave the way for later generations of women in blues and soul. In 2018, she was honoured with a National Heritage Fellowship, recognising her as a cultural treasure in American music. We also nod to Sade, born January 16, 1959 in Nigeria, whose sophisticated blend of soul, jazz and other influences isn't strictly blues but carries the emotional restraint and depth that blues fans often recognise and appreciate. Her work shows how the blues' emotional vocabulary keeps echoing in modern, hybrid forms of black music. When we look specifically for blues musicians who died on January 16, there isn't a widely recognised core blues figure whose passing is tied to this exact date in the same way as our birthdays. Historical lists of musicians' deaths on January 16 tend to feature classical composers, producers and artists from other genres, rather than canonical blues names. So instead of forcing a connection, we can treat this segment as a moment of remembrance. On January 16, we can honour artists like Robert Wilkins, who lived until the 1980s, and Barbara Lynn, who is still with us, by revisiting their recordings and recognising how work bridges eras from jug band days and Memphis street corners to electric R&B stages and international tours. January 16 becomes less about a single loss and more about an ongoing lineage. Artists born on this date whose music continues to speak for those who are no longer here. So what does January 16 mean in blues history? It's the day Prohibition was ratified, unintentionally fueling the speakeasy culture where blues and jazz thrived in the shadows. It's the date Duke Ellington cut It Don't Mean a Thing, crystallizing a swing feel steeped in blues phrasing. It's the night Eric Clapton sat down for his MTV Unplugged session, bringing acoustic blues to a massive global audience. It's also the birthday of Robert Wilkins, a country blues original whose songs bridged secular and sacred, and Barbara Lynn, a trailblazing left-handed electric guitarist and songwriter who put her own words and riffs at the centre of the story. Now, if today's episode sparked something in you, take January 16 as an invitation. Spin a Robert Wilkins side, cue up You'll Lose a Good Thing, revisit Clapton's Unplugged, or dig into the ways Prohibition-era nightlife shaped the sound of American music. The blues is a long conversation across time, and January 16 is one of those dates where you can really hear the echoes. Join us next time as we continue to explore the fascinating history of the blues.